I sit at my desk at work. I work at the Comptroller of the Currency, which is a government office that watches over banks to make sure they follow the rules. My desk is neat and plain, just like the way my family thinks I am. My name is Lyra Winslow, I am 32 years old, and my family thinks I am the quiet one. They think I have a safe, boring job and that nothing exciting ever happens to me. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? I want to know how far this story goes. My phone starts buzzing on the desk. I see an email pop up. It is from my credit monitoring service. The subject line says there is a new inquiry on my account. I tap it and read the alert. It says that a bank called First Atlantic Trust checked my credit. I do not know this bank. I did not panic at first. Instead, I feel a strange calm. My training at work as a senior investigator kicks in. I am trained to notice things that do not make sense with money. My mind focuses sharply. I know that something serious is happening. I remember Easter brunch with my family 2 weeks ago. My parents' house in Arlington was full of people. My sister, Celine, who is 35, came in late like she always does. She had a fancy handbag that I know costs more than my rent for a whole month. She talked loudly about her work in private equity and a weekend she spent in Nantucket. She bragged about her investments, saying the Hamilton portfolio doubled this quarter. My dad, Thaddeus, looked very proud. My mom, Maris, squeezed Celine's hand and smiled. Then Celine looked at me. She always looks at me like she wants to make me feel small. "Still working on those boring forms for the Treasury, Annie?" she asked. Her voice was sweet, but I knew it was mean. "You should have funded some cash-ins." I smiled and said nothing. That is what I always do. I have learned that saying nothing is safer. Later, I watched from the kitchen window as she drove away in her new Range Rover. $68,000. She drove so fast, like she didn't care about anything. I noticed she has been spending way more money than her tech job could ever pay. Now, seeing this credit alert, it all starts to make sense. Someone is using my identity. Someone is pretending to be me. I put my phone in my pocket and walk to a quiet meeting room. I close the door and call Celine. She answers on the 4th ring. "Annie, this is a surprise. I am about to go into a meeting," she says. "Celine? Quick question," I say, soft and calm, sounding like the quiet little Annie my family thinks I am. "Did you use my information by mistake?" She laughs. "You're paranoid, Annie. Your job makes you suspicious of everyone. It must be boring." I stay calm. "So that's a no?" "Gotta run, big meeting," she says, then hangs up. I lower the phone slowly. She lied. Most people might feel angry, sad, or shocked. I do not. I just feel clear and focused. Celine made a mistake. She picked the wrong person to mess with. I am trained to handle crimes with money. I know exactly what to do. I go back to my desk and log into a secure government computer. I started a secret case file. This isn't just about a credit alert. This is serious. I type my name, Winslow Lyra, and start writing everything down. The alert, the date, the bank, the call to Celine, and what she said. I write down Easter brunch, the Range Rover, and her big spending. The office gets quiet. My coworkers leave. I stay at my desk, calm and focused. This is no longer personal. This is now the case number OCCFR 23791. My family always underscassionated me. They thought I was weak and boring. But being underscassionated is like wearing armor. Celine is going to learn this the hard way. I save the file and leave work. I drove my old Subaru home to my apartment in Alexandria. I feel calm. The quiet one with a safe job is ready to fight, and my sister doesn't even know it yet. The next day, I check my full credit file at work. It is worse than I thought. There is a new loan. $90,000 from First Atlantic Trust approved 3 days ago. My heart beats faster for a second, but then I stay calm. I check the loan application. It is in my name, with my perfect credit score and social security number. But the signature, it is fake. Celine did not even try hard. The loops and slant are all wrong. The income she wrote is way higher than what I actually make. I take a screenshot and save it. I sit back and think. Celine has always been my favorite. She is always the star at piano recitals, school, and at work. I have been the quiet one, the boring sister. My parents made her feel like she could do anything. Now she thinks she can even steal my identity. This $90,000 loan could ruin my life. My government job and security clearance depend on perfect credit. If anyone sees this, I could lose everything. I am not going to call the bank yet. That is what she expects me to do. If I act now, she could cover her tracks and lie to my parents. I need patience. I start building my case like I do at work with criminals. I take screenshots of the loan, the fake signature, the credit report, and save them in a secure folder. Next, I check Celine's social media. 2 days ago, she posted a photo in a huge living room with tall windows. She said, "Just picked up the keys. Penthouse life. Blessed. The cashioning is perfect." The loan money would have cleared just 1 day before she bought this place. I check public records. She bought a new penthouse 3 days ago. $85,000 down. The rest of the money covers moving costs, and maybe that fancy handbag. I lean back in my chair. I have the motive, her love of spending. I have the means, the stolen money. I have proof. The trap is ready. I just need her to admit it. I close my computer. To anyone watching, I am just Lyra finishing her workday. Nothing special. I walk to my car in the dark parking garage. I feel calm. Celine does not understand patience or careful planning. She is used to quick results. But now, I am playing the long game. The quiet sister is hunting, and my sister does not even know it. 3 months go by. I do not make a move. I watch. I document everything. The loan payments come in, just enough to not get noticed. Celine is careful but too arrogant to think I am serious. One Tuesday afternoon, my mom calls. I know it is her voice. "Lyra, we're having a family dinner on Friday. Celine has exciting news," she says. I ask, "What kind of news?" She says, "She wants to tell everyone herself. You will be there, of course." I reply, "Of course," keeping my voice normal. I hang up and sit at my desk, staring at my reports. Nothing seems unusual to anyone else. But inside, I know what is coming. I spend the next few days thinking about what to do. I am not angry or upset. I am calm. I know exactly how to catch Celine. I need evidence, proof that she used my name for a loan and bought a penthouse with it. I need to show that this was not a mistake. It was planned. I check her social media every day. She posts pictures of new clothes, fancy dinners, and expensive trips. Each post is a clue. Each post proves she is living a life she cannot afford on her own. I also look at the loan account. Celine pays the bills just on cash-in. She is careful, but she cannot hide what she has done. I take screenshots of every payment. I note the dates and amounts. Some cash-ins I imagine talking to her. I imagine asking, "Why did you do this? Why did you use my name?" I imagine her trying to lie. But I do not need to talk to her yet. I have cash-in. Cash-in is my weapon. Celine acts fast and recklessly. I act slowly and carefully. I wait for her to make mistakes. I wait for her to reveal herself. Finally, Friday comes. My mom calls again to remind me about the dinner. I put on a calm smile. My family thinks I am just Lyra, the quiet one with the safe job. They do not know what I have discovered. They do not know what I plan to do. I drove to my parents' house. The sun is low in the sky. The streets are busy, but I feel calm. I park and walk inside. The house smells like food. My mom is in the kitchen, smiling and bustling. Celine is in the living room, talking loudly, showing off. She does not know I know. She does not know that I have been watching for 3 months. I sit quietly, just like I always do. I listen as she tells stories about her life. She brags about the penthouse, the new car, and her trips. My parents beam. They are proud. They do not see the truth. I take a deep breath. I am patient. I am ready. I have my evidence, my proof, and my plan. Celine may be the golden child, but I am the one who knows how to win. I smile to myself. The quiet one with the safe job is not so quiet anymore. She is ready. And Celine? She has no idea what is coming. 3 months went by with no word from Celine. Silence. Nothing. And now suddenly this happens. The cash-in isn't an accident. Celine has never been able to stop showing off, whether it is something she did herself or something she takes from someone else. She has always wanted everyone to notice her. I know this is another one of those cash-ins. I know she wants an audience for her latest move. On Friday evening, I parked my old Subaru down the street from my parents' house in Arlington. It's the same house we grew up in. The house is a modest, simple colonial, nothing fancy, but it has always been home. I could see Celine's big, shiny Range Rover in the driveway. It glimmered under the porch lights. My dad's car, a small, sensible sedan, looked tiny next to it. I felt a little twinge of irritation at the way she always had to have the biggest and best thing. Before getting out of the car, I checked my phone. The recording app was ready. I had tested it earlier in the day. I slipped the phone into my pocket. In Virginia, it is legal to record a conversation as long as you are part of it. I was I walked up to the front door, taking a deep breath to steady myself. Mom opened the door before I could even knock. It was like she had been waiting for me. Her hug smelled like the white wine she sometimes drinks, and that fancy perfume Dad gives her at Christmas. Mom's hugs always smelled like comfort and safety, even when the world felt a little tense. Everyone was already inside. The dining room looked perfect, almost like it had been prepared for a special occasion. The table was set beautifully. The dishes were shiny and clean. The crystal glasses sparkled. The napkins were folded into perfect little triangles. Every detail looked like it had taken hours to prepare. Dad was standing near the fireplace, holding a glass of scotch. Celine, of course, was standing near the big bay window, holding a wine glass that was already half empty. She loved being the center of attention, and it showed. Her eyes glimmered with excitement, like she had been waiting for this exact moment. "Look who finally came," Celine said, smiling, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I guess the government must be running late today." I smiled back and didn't react to her teasing. Traffic on the bridge, I thought. Dinner started as it always did. Dad talked about golf scores. Mom asked about Celine's recent trip to Chicago. They asked me about my little apartment and my government job. The usual family questions. But Celine was different tonight. She seemed full of energy, almost vibrating with it. Her eyes kept glancing at me. I could tell she was measuring me, planning how she wanted the night to go. She refilled her wine glass not once, but twice before the main course even came. When Mom served dessert, a fancy chocolate dish that Celine always loved, I carefully placed my phone on the table beside my water glass. I set it face down, so no one could see it was recording. The red recording light blended into the dark tablecloth. Celine tapped her wine glass with her fork. The high, clear sound made everyone in the room stop talking. "I actually have something to share," she announced, her cheeks pink from the wine and excitement. She looked straight at me, her eyes bright and daring, but the smile on her face didn't quite reach her eyes. Then she said it. "I used your credit to get a $90,000 personal loan." The room went completely silent. Dad froze, holding his fork halfway to his mouth. Mom's smile stayed on her face, but it was uncertain, almost frozen. Everyone was waiting for me to react. Mom absorbed the shock but stayed calm. Celine leaned forward a little, clearly enjoying the silence she had created. "My score wasn't great," she said, still smiling. "But yours? Flawless. You should thank me for building your credit history." I felt an unusual calm spread over me. My pulse didn't quicken. I didn't feel panic. I looked at Celine and asked in a quiet, clear voice, "Why would you do that, Celine? That is bank fraud." She laughed, but it was a brittle, sharp laugh that didn't sound happy at all. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, Annie. It's just family." I stayed calm. Fraud, using someone else's identity to get money from a bank, is a serious crime. You could go to prison for 30 years and pay $1 million fine. Celine's smile wavered for a second, then she tried to recover it. "God, you're boring. It's just paperwork. Who's going to know?" I asked calmly. "Did you use the money to buy the penthouse?" Her eyes flickered with a moment of uncertainty. "How did you? Just curious," she said. "If you did," I said, "that would also be wire fraud." They usually run sentences one after the other. Dad finally put down his fork, making a sharp clinking sound against his plate. "Now, Lyra, I'm sure Celine didn't mean any harm. She's just ambitious. Always has been." Mom spoke softly. "Thaddeus." Celine's face became hard. "Don't worry, Daddy. Annie won't do anything." Then she turned back to me. "You wouldn't want to tell your little government friends why I borrowed your credit, would you? All those awkward questions about family loyalty." Every word she said was being recorded. Every second was noted. Her confession was clean, arrogant, and undeniable. I checked my watch. "I should go. I have an early meeting tomorrow." "You're leaving already?" Mom asked. "We haven't even had coffee." I picked up my phone. "Work," I said. Celine raised her glass in a mock salute. "The wheels of government never stop turning, right, Annie?" I nodded politely to my parents and ignored Celine's teasing. I walked out the door. The night air felt clean after the tension inside. I got into my Subaru and started driving, not toward my apartment in Alexandria, but straight to the OCC field office. The building was almost empty, just the night security guard who knew me well enough not to ask questions. The fluorescent lights in my office flickered on with a soft hum. I logged into my secure government computer and pulled up the file I had been preparing for 3 months. I filled out the official conflict of interest notice with careful attention. I attached the audio recording from dinner. I also included the forged loan documents, the credit report I had been tracking, and the penthouse purchase records I had found through public documents. I checked everything carefully, making sure every detail was correct. Then I transferred the entire file to the government task force. I watched as the case left my hands. The counterattack had begun. I could no longer touch the case. The investigation was out of my control. On Monday morning, I arrived at the field office earlier than usual. A sealed envelope with the evidence was on the passenger seat of my car. I signed in at security and walked through the building quietly, moving like I was invisible. My desk phone rang at 8:32 a.m. "Deputy Director Strickland wants to see you immediately, Ms. Winslow," said the assistant. I walked to Strickland's office. She sat behind a large mahogany desk, back straight, looking like she controlled everything in the room without raising her voice. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back into a severe bun, and she wore reading glasses on the bridge of her nose. I sat across from her, keeping my hands folded in my lap to stop myself from fidgeting. Strickland removed her glasses and looked at the open evidence binder. "I've reviewed your submission," she said. Her eyes were sharp like a hawk's. "Thorough work. Clean chain of custody. Irrefutable evidence." I nodded once, keeping a professional mask on my face. "Good work, Winslow. You are recused from this investigation effective immediately." Her words hung in the air. They weren't a suggestion, they were a fact. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office now had the file. Standard protocol for family-related cases. She leaned slightly forward. Her expression softened just a little. "Lyra, you handled this by the book. I'm sorry it's your family." I felt a moment of understanding. Perhaps she had once faced a similar choice between duty and family. "Thank you, ma'am," I said. The federal machine I had worked for years would now take over. The recusal ensured the integrity of the investigation. It would protect me. Nothing more needed to be said. I returned to my cubicle and opened my email. 37 new messages had arrived overnight, all asking for reviews, documentation, verification, or regulatory filings. I methodically worked through them, my fingers moving over the keyboard with practiced skill. I ate lunch at my desk, a simple sandwich, still absorbed in work. I reviewed a suspicious activity report from a bank in Minnesota. I analyzed transaction patterns from a credit union in West Virginia. I answered calls from field examiners in Florida and Oregon. By the cash-in I drove home in my old Subaru. The streets of Alexandria were quiet. I felt invisible again, the quiet one with the safe, reliable government job. At 7:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was my parents. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but habit won. "Lyra, you seemed upset at dinner on Friday night, honey. I just wanted to check on you," Mom said, her voice brittle but polite. I stayed silent. "You know how Celine is. She's just ambitious. Always has been. She didn't mean anything by it," Mom continued. Dad added, "Your sister's doing important things. Some cash-ins, those ventures need flexibility." I said flatly, "I have a meeting," and hung up. There was no meeting, just silence and the knowledge that the government machine I had served for years would now take over. A week passed. The federal machine kept moving forward, quietly and invisibly, unnoticed by those unaware of its workings, but unstoppable all the same. Celine would face the consequences, and I could go back to my ordinary, quiet life, confident that justice was being done. I kept doing my normal daily work. Life was quiet and routine. Investigator Winslow and my sister Lyra stayed apart. They didn't talk or see each other. It was as if a clear wall had been placed between them, separating them completely. I didn't think about it too much. I just focused on my work. Then, on Thursday morning, my phone buzzed with a message. I pulled it out and saw the name Celine. My heart didn't beat faster. I didn't feel happy or angry. I just felt calm. I already knew what was happening. The message said, "The FBI just called me. What did you do? Call me now." I stared at the message. My fingers didn't shake. I didn't feel excited. I didn't feel any sense of revenge. I felt calm. I knew the system was working. The rules were working. Justice was moving, even if slowly. I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to the U.S. Attorney's Office. This was part of the rules I had to follow, called the recusal protocol. It meant I couldn't do certain things myself. I had to report everything. 3 minutes later, another message appeared. "You'll ruin this family. Mom and Dad are devastated. You're a vindictive beach." I frowned at the message, though I didn't feel any anger. I took a screenshot of this one too and sent it to the same office. Then I blocked her number. Evidence collection complete. Celine being scared was just another fact in the investigation. Her panic was a sign that the investigation was working, and that was enough. The next morning, I went to work. I sat in conference room B with 4 of my colleagues. We were talking about new rules for banks in small towns and rural areas. My phone buzzed quietly in my pocket. I didn't need to look at it. I already knew what was happening across town. Federal agents were walking towards Celine's new penthouse apartment. They would be wearing dark suits, badges clipped to their belts. They would identify themselves clearly. They would tell her she was being arrested. They would read her rights. I wasn't there and I didn't need to be. All the evidence I had collected, the credit reports, the fake loan applications, the money transferred to her apartment, and most importantly, her own voice on a dinner recording, had already done the work. I didn't need to see it happen. My colleague Cashin looked at me during the meeting. "Your thoughts on the proposed compliance thresholds?" he asked. I cleared my throat. The current structure creates unnecessary work for banks with less than $50 million in assets. I suggest we make a tiered approach based on risk, rather than applying the same rules to all banks. The meeting continued. Life went on. The world didn't stop. Justice advanced quietly, methodically. And across town, my sister Celine was learning what I had always known. Real power isn't in fancy cars or expensive clothes. It's in discipline, following rules, and doing your job perfectly. Some might call it revenge. I call it following the rules. On Friday morning, federal agents went through Celine's apartment carefully. Every corner was checked. Papers were spread across the dining room table. Designer shopping bags were stacked in the corners. Each item was cataloged and documented. A Treasury agent tapped through her laptop. Another agent checked the safe hidden behind an abstract painting. Octavia Strickland, the supervising investigator, stood in the center of it all, watching carefully. "What's the damage?" she asked. The lead agent looked up. "It wasn't just Lyra. We've found 7 stolen identities. She used them to take out loans." 7. Octavia's eyebrows rose. "Yes," the agent said. "She used colleagues, former friends, and even her parents, Thaddeus and Maris Winslow." Octavia nodded slightly, making a mental note of everything. "How much money?" she asked. The agent replied, $410,000 in fraudulent debt. She spread it across multiple banks, keeping each loan under $50,000 so that the bank systems wouldn't notice. Octavia looked out the window at the neighborhood Celine had bought into. "Smart," she said, but not in admiration. Just a professional assessment. Celine had carefully stayed under the thresholds that might trigger alerts. She made minimal payments, just enough to avoid default alarms. Outside, agents loaded Celine's shiny $68,000 Range Rover onto a flatbed truck. Other agents gathered jewelry from her bedroom safe and investment accounts that had been bought with stolen funds. Every asset was traced back to criminal proceeds. Octavia observed everything carefully. An agent approached her with a tablet. "Deputy Director, we also found messages to a cousin about moving funds overseas. She tried to delete them, but we recovered them." Octavia nodded. "Add obstruction to the charges," she said. Meanwhile, the doorbell rang at Lyra's apartment in Alexandria. She checked the peephole and saw her parents standing in the hallway, their faces drawn and worried. She took a deep breath and opened the door. Thaddeus Winslow stepped forward first, his face flushed. "They arrested your sister. They say she used our names too." Lyra stood in the doorway, neither inviting them in nor stepping back. "You work for the government," Thaddeus said. "You have to stop this. Tell them it's a mistake." Maris clutched her husband's arm. "Please, Lyra. They're saying terrible things. Fraud. Identity theft. They took her away in handcuffs." Lyra felt nothing. She couldn't. And it wasn't a mistake. Thaddeus's expression hardened. "What do you mean you can't? After all we've done for you. You'd do this to your own sister? To your family?" The words hung in the air like heavy clouds. Lyra thought quietly, "She did this to us. I just did my job." Lyra closed the door, the soft click of the latch more final than any slam could be. 6 weeks later, Lyra sat in a federal courtroom, 3 rows behind the prosecution table. The U.S. attorney stood before the jury, her voice clear and confident. She presented the government's case. The defendant, Celine Winslow, had been indicted on 15 counts of federal bank fraud, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Celine sat at the defense table in a navy pantsuit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Without her usual glossy appearance, she looked smaller, diminished somehow. The judge, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair, addressed the court. The court denied bail because Celine had attempted to delete financial records and contacted relatives about moving money offshore. Lyra remembered the dinner recording perfectly. Celine's voice was clear and mocking. "I used your credit to get a $90,000 personal loan. You should thank me. I'm building your credit history." Lyra remembered the moment exactly. The wine glasses on the table, the heavy silverware, the weight of her phone recording every word. Celine had been so confident, so sure that Lyra would never fight back. The prosecutor continued carefully, showing the forged signatures on loan documents, the bank records showing transfers to Celine's accounts, and the seized assets purchased with stolen funds. The jury listened with increasing discomfort as the full picture of betrayal emerged. 4 hours later, the jury returned with a verdict. On all 15 counts, they found Celine guilty. Celine's face crumpled for the first cash-in. Reality was crashing through her carefully built facade. At the sentencing hearing 2 weeks later, the prosecutor stood before the judge. "Your Honor, the government requests that you consider several aggravating factors. The defendant exploited family trust, engaged in deliberate concealment of her actions, and has shown zero remorse throughout these proceedings." The judge reviewed the sentencing memorandum, then looked directly at Celine. "The court sentences you to 9 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You will pay full restitution of $410,000 to the Vic Cashins. Furthermore, you are banned from employment in any financial institution for 10 years following release." The gavel fell. The sound echoed through the courtroom. Lyra watched as federal marshals approached to take Celine away. Her sister finally looked at her, eyes wide with disbelief, as if still expecting Lyra to intervene to save her. Lyra remained seated, her expression calm and unchanged. The power Celine once felt through her charisma and arrogance was gone. Not revenge, Lyra thought. Justice. I returned to my desk at the OCC, processing the same compliance forms I had handled for years. But now my work has a new meaning. My safe little government job felt important. 2 months after Celine's sentencing, my office phone rang. It was my mother. "Lyra, we need your help with those credit bureau forms," she said. Her voice wavered with embarrassment and contrition. "Your father tried, but I'll stop by tonight. Have the account numbers ready," I said in a neutral voice. Later, at their Arlington home, I spread the fraud alert forms across their dining table. The same table where, on that Friday night, Celine had proudly confessed to stealing my identity. The same polished cherry wood where she had raised her wine glass in a mock toast to her cleverness. I worked methodically, explaining each section with detached professionalism. "The trade lines will be removed in 45 to 60 days, I said, pointing to the relevant paragraph. The credit bureaus confirmed. My mother nodded, stealing glances at me when she thought I wasn't looking. My father stared at his hands. The emotional damage would linger in this house like a permanent stain. But the financial damage, all $410,000 of it, was now contained. My phone buzzed again. A text from Octavia Strickland. "My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow." The following morning, I knocked on the deputy director's door precisely at 9. Octavia gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Winslow," she said, her usual greeting clipped and direct. She slid a folder toward me. Inside was an official letter with the OCC seal. "Your handling of the Winslow case was textbook. Ethical. Methodical. That's why you've been selected to lead our new National Anti-Fraud Task Force." I scanned the document, absorbing the implications. Lead investigator. National scope. Interagency coordination. The Quiet One processing forms was now the person in charge of financial identity theft across the country. Octavia gave the closest thing to a smile I had ever seen from her. "Effective immediately." I nodded once. "Thank you, ma'am." A week later, I received an envelope from my parents' attorney. Inside were signature pages for their revised trust and estate plan. Celine had been removed as executor and beneficiary. A no-contest clause had been added. I signed where indicated and mailed the documents back without comment. That evening, I stopped by their house to drop off some tax paperwork. As I walked to my car, my father followed me down the driveway. The porch light caught the new lines on his face, the slump in his shoulders. "Lyra," he said, standing beside my old Subaru, keys jingling nervously in his hand. I waited silent. "We thought quiet meant weak. Turns out it meant disciplined," he said. I studied him for a moment. 32 years I'd waited for this validation, for them to see me clearly. Now that it had arrived, I realized it meant nothing. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I slipped into my car and started the engine. The Subaru, 10 years old, paid off reliable. I merged into the evening traffic, flowing through the quiet streets of Alexandria. The streetlights caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I was content to remain invisible, just another commuter heading home from a safe government job. Because some cash-ins, the most powerful move isn't revenge. It's doing your job flawlessly. And some cash-ins, the greatest freedom comes not from being seen, but from no longer needing to be.